videos. In this video, we're going to cover the experience box, which is the next one down. So in the last video, we went through the feeling box, where we talked about the how and why questions to get us down to that one very specific and strong emotion. If you remember that, in the last video, we got down to the very specific, strong emotion of abandoned. And this one, in this video, we're going to jump in and go into the next box. So in the experience box, the next question you ask is, as you focus on that feeling of abandoned, does that remind you of anything? Okay? It's not super specific. It's okay with me at this point if you don't ask it that way. You know, a lot of times I just simply say, and where have you felt that way before? You know, so that's okay. But what you're doing is you're trying to let the mind connect that big emotion to an event, a theme, or an image. So what'll happen sometimes, most of the time, what's very typical, especially in the first 15 sessions here, but what's very typical is as you ask that question, okay, as you focus on that feeling of being abandoned, does that remind you of anything? Usually the person will go, yep, that reminds me of 5 years ago when I got yelled at by my boss. Say, okay, start asking about that. How did that make you feel? And start working your way down. They'll go to an event. Now, what often happens is, this is also very common, is that they'll go back 5 years or so, or maybe they'll go to a month ago, and then they'll go back to 5 years, and they'll say something like, my boss yelled at me. And if they're not particularly showing a whole lot of emotion, they're just kind of talking about it factually, if that's kind of what your intuition is picking up on, then you can ask the question of, well, was that the first time you felt that way? Or have you felt that way before? In which case they'll say, yeah, jeepers, 15 years ago when I was in high school, you know, my coach berated me in front of the team. And then you say, okay, and see how much emotion is presented there. And if it's still not a whole lot, then you say, okay, well, was that the first time you felt that way? Or have you felt that way before then? And then they might go, oh, yeah, I did actually, when my parents got divorced when I was 6. And so you're going way back to a previous memory. Now, what's so neat about this is that it's also very common that as you go back through these memories, you'll have something presently. My husband yelled at me, and then my boss yelled at me, and then my coach yelled at me, and then before that, my parents got divorced. Okay, so you're going back through these years. If you go back and you resolve that first event, then at the end of the session, you walk back through each of those memories that they've presented you with and say, okay, so you're resolving what happened to them at the age of 6, and you say, okay, well, let's fast forward a little bit to when you were in high school and your coach berated you. How does that place feel now? And this, oh my goodness, yeah, that feels completely different. Okay, let's fast forward again to your boss yelling at you. How does that place, well, that changes everything. And then how about now, your husband? And so if you resolve the first one, the rest of them can fall like dominoes. That's very common. Now, if they don't, that's okay. Don't be surprised at all if you need to go back to the same event over and over and over again. You're just hitting it from a different angle, or sometimes it's a particular chapter in life. So if somebody had their parents get divorced at age 11, don't be surprised if they go back to those memories around that age 11, where maybe mom and dad were fighting, or they heard about the divorce, or mom was telling you things that weren't true about dad, or dad was telling you things that were true about mom. Don't be surprised if you got to keep going back to those same memories. Sometimes people on the couch will say, well, I've already thought that was resolved. I've already been to that memory before. Not if you're still being reminded of it. It's not resolved. There's still stuff. If it's coming to mind, there's something there. So keep going to that if you need to. So don't be surprised if it's a particular short chapter in life that you got to go to, or if it's one particular memory that you got to go to. Do not be discouraged by that. It's like sometimes you'll go back to the exact same memory, and the first lie you resolve is, I was alone. No, Jesus was there. So you resolve the alone lie. Then you go back, next session or 15 sessions later, you go back to that exact same memory, but now it's not alone, it's powerless. And you resolve that. And then later you go back to that same event and now it's worthless. And then later you go back to it and I'm unlovable. So it's possible for you to have a lot of lies wrapped around one event. So just keep going back to it. If that's what's coming to mind, follow that emotion. That is so incredibly important. Follow the emotion, because that's what we do is we say, well, it's not logical to go back to that because it's already resolved. Don't follow logic. Logic will always lead you into the wrong place. Logic will always lead you away from Chicago. You're going to California, okay? If you're following logic, you have to be able to stay on that emotion. That's what's going to lead you to the hurting place, to the hurting part, okay? So that's the event. Sometimes it's a theme, okay? It's not one particular event. It's just, you ask, okay, what does that remind you of? It's like, man, I have just always felt this way. I've always felt that way. Okay, that's fine. Don't be threatened by that they're not giving you a memory. That's not a problem. You can work with that theme. So you say, okay, well, if that's the case, if you've been abandoned all your life, you've always felt abandoned all your life, how does that make you feel? And start working with that. Why do you feel that way? How does that make you feel? And just keep going deeper until you find the identity lie, okay? Don't worry about if it's a theme. Just keep asking the same questions as if it were a particular event. Third, image. This is common too. I'd say maybe a third of people that come in to do Renew Ministry, probably roughly a third of people, are highly visual. So when they are struggling with something, it is in a picture in their mind. And so I'll be asking them, okay, well, as you focus on that feeling of abandoned, what does that remind you of? And, they're thinking, it's like, I'm not really coming up. If they're not coming up with anything and they're not saying it's a theme, then what I'll say is, okay, what does that look like in your mind's eye? Okay, so they have in their mind, it's abandoned, and abandoned has a very specific picture, image attached to it. And maybe it's a rabbit that's been stuck in a cage and there's lions, that are going to attack. They've been abandoned and now they're not safe, and they attach themselves to that image. They will be assigned an identity, and maybe it's the bunny rabbit or maybe it's something else. But don't be afraid of people that really connect with imagery and use images a lot in their mind. You will have some crazy things happen. There will be dragons around. There will be, like Lord of the Rings. People will associate a lot of movie references too. That's quite common. There'll be Smeagol's and Golems and giant snakes and spiders and things like that are going on. Sometimes they're being chased. Sometimes they're chasing something else. Sometimes what they're wearing is very indicative of what they're feeling. Sometimes their size is very indicative of what they're feeling. But work with that image. Work with that image of trying to help them connect with, okay, so as you see yourself there, how do you feel? And then just keep asking how you feel. How do you feel? How do you feel? Bring Jesus when you get to that identity lie, and we'll go over that in the next video of bringing Jesus in. It's very important for us to find the hurting part. That's what's important, is that we're finding this. So here you've got your brain, okay? And the hurting part is right here. Let's just say that that's where the hurting part is. And what this is where Satan used a specific, most likely a specific event to plant a lie in the subconscious mind of this person. And so the bottom identity lie, let's say here, is you're alone, and you'll always be alone, okay? So that's the hurting part, and it's in a very specific place in the hard drive of the mind. It's not over here. It's not here, it's not here, it's right here. And so what we have to do is not plant the truth here. That's not gonna help. We're not gonna plant it here, that's not gonna help. We're not gonna plant it here, that's not gonna help. We have to go to the specific spot where the lie was planted, which is why memories are so important to go to, especially in the first 15 sessions. I'll talk more about that in 1 second. So here's the hurting part in the hard drive of the mind. If we are telling the truth to this spot, it's not reaching the hurting part. And they'll sit here and they'll go, yeah, I know that God loves me. That's not helping me. I know that logically. It's not helping. I still feel that it's not true. So you have to go to the spot where the hurting part is in the hard drive of the mind. The reason why we use the hard drive is kind of like a computer hard drive. You have to go to the specific location. If the computer's got a virus, you can't just plug in the code over here in this location if the virus is located over here, So we kind of use that as kind of our imagery for getting to the hurting part in the hard drive of the mind. Okay, so let's talk about that. The first 15 sessions or so, okay? As you're working with somebody, you'll probably get intuitive about this as far as what they need. But in general, first 15 sessions or so, I want you going for a memory. I want you to be trying to find the event that the person experienced where the devil planted a lie in their subconscious mind. That's where you're going to experience the most fruit, is if you find the event in the first 15 sessions. Now, what's unique about this is that after the first 15 sessions, that may not be necessary, okay? I do want to say that after the first 15 sessions, it is still very common for me to ask for a memory, because that's what will produce the most fruit, usually with most people, or with half of the people, maybe. But after the first 15 sessions, because they've learned to emote, it may not be necessary to find a memory. All you have to do is connect with the emotion, right? Because normally in life, we don't spend a whole lot of time, we're not naturally good at focusing on our pain. We're really good at squishing our pain, stuffing it down so that we don't have to look at it, right? Don't have to process it, don't have to go through the pain of trying to resolve it when we don't have the answers, and so we just stuff that pain down. And typically, that's how people operate most of their lives until they hurt so much that they're asking for help. So now they're on your couch asking for help. But during the first 15 sessions, because they've been stuffing all their emotions all that time, they're not good at connecting with their pain. So in the first 15 sessions, they're learning to connect to their pain. They're learning to emote. They're learning to feel the pain that is actually inside of them. And so after the first 15 sessions, they're a whole lot better at it. And then, because they're so much better at it, you don't necessarily have to find the event. Okay? So it's like this. You've got the brain, and let's say this is the event that in the hard drive of their mind, the event took place right here in the hard drive. That's what needs to be healed. What we found is that sometimes with half the people after the first 15 sessions or so, they don't need to be connected with this event. All they have to do is be connected to an emotion that they felt at that event. So if they felt incredibly alone or worthless, all they got to do is connect with that emotion. And maybe they felt it here, and maybe they felt it here, and maybe they felt it here, and maybe they felt it here in the hard drive. But it's the emotion that connects all the dots. And so all of these end up being connected, and then you don't even have to go to this specific event, but because you felt it that big and you got that lie resolved, it resolves all of those things. It is just so incredibly amazing how God wires our brains. that this is possible, but I have seen it hundreds of times in our Renew sessions where we didn't even go to a memory, but holy buckets, did we connect to an emotion. And then we started talking about all these other memories that we've talked about in the past or ones that we haven't even talked about, and it's resolved. It is just thoroughly resolved. It just feels miraculous to me. So in the experience box, really all you're looking to do is to connect with an event, theme, or image. That's the goal, is to try and connect, emotionally connect with that. Once you do, the next step is going to be the lie step. And then you're going to go back to the same questions from the feeling box of how does that make you feel? Why do you feel that way? So we'll talk about that in the next video so that we can actually arrive at the bottom lie in the event, theme, or image. Okay? Looking forward to it. Thanks.